Congress up in Philadelphia. I have returned here to sit upon a committee with my former apprentice, I'm pleased to say now friend and colleague, Mr. Jefferson, also my friend Mr. Mason, Mr. Pendleton, and also Mr. Lee. A committee that is intent on revising the laws of Virginia. It is our task at present to not only consider the laws of Virginia proper over the past 150 years, but also to apply directly anything that might be necessary from common law over the past 1,000 years. A menial task. So forgive me, I'm not very funny. But I thought that considering the day, today is April the 28th, 27th? 28th, thank you. Obviously 1777. And considering where we find ourselves floating here now on this ocean in a new America, on board this vessel Virginia, I cannot help but think, sir, that many of us feel as if we are actually Odysseus himself, standing on board his vessel, pointing the ship towards Ithaca, his home. But how long will it be before we arrive? I need not tell you that for 2 years now a war has raged here upon this soil that was once a war with the intent that we should be declared, that we ourselves should be declared full subjects of the British Crown, restored rights fully under the British Crown, and now is a war for our independence from the very same. So I thought that we might enjoy coming together so that we might discuss how we will find our way home. After all, as you well know, it took Odysseus how long? 10 years to make his way home. Will it be 10 years for us? What do you think? I don't know either. Where is home? How can we know? There is a way. And I'll tell you. Let us begin with some familiar words, shall we? Ones that over the course of the past, how many months? 9 months or so, you no doubt have become very familiar with. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And that when any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. These are familiar words to you, are they not?
They are.
Almost.
No doubt you have identified them already as the words written by my former apprentice, again pleased to say now friend and colleague, Mr. Jefferson, in the Declaration of Independence. But you know, Mr. Jefferson, when he came to study the law under my guide some years ago, came to me with the understanding that many do when they study the law, or indeed many of their parents do when they send their children to study said law. They think, madam, that all they will do is study municipal law. Not under my roof. Obviously, it is important to study municipal law. Municipal law is the law of locality. Our locality being the city of Williamsburg. You might refer to York County or James City County, all of those being municipalities. You could even refer to the laws of Virginia as a whole. That being said, when someone comes to study the law in my home, we study 4 points to the law. And the municipal law is, in fact, the least of the authoritative between them. Let me explain. The municipal law is man's law. I think you'll agree with me on that. But, madam, it is not the superior man's law. Man's superior law, I made mention of a short time ago. We refer to it more commonly these days as common law. That is an aspect of this superior law known as the law of nations. You might refer to it as international law. This law encompasses all of British legal history by way of common law, but it also goes farther. Law of nations refers to very commonly that of law of admiralty, meaning law on the oceans, which encompasses the lex Rhodesia. It also encompasses the laws of Justinian, which are rooted well within our system. I think you know what they are. To live honestly, to harm no one, and to give each man his due. But there is a law superior to that. Municipal law, law of nations. And then there is what is referred to as the law of revelation. You might refer to this as the Torah, or Scripture. This is the law that was revealed to man by his word. But there is indeed a law that is superior to that. As a matter of fact, Mr. Jefferson makes a reference to it, and I made the point to emphasize it when I spoke of it during the Declaration of Independence, of which I was quoting a moment ago. This is the law of nature. The law of nature, as Mr. Jefferson says, and of nature's God entitled them. This is the law of everything. This is the law that governs the entirety of everything that is the universe. And it is crafted by none other than the Creator's perfect hand and set forward in His perfect will. We know this exists because Scripture tells us it exists. After all, you know what Psalm says. The heavens proclaim His glory, and the firmament showeth His handiwork. Yet there have been men throughout history who have paid special attention to this natural law, madam, and I think that you know for certain that we hold these particular men in very high regard, do we not? We refer to them by a special name, as a matter of fact. We call them philosophers. Now, the natural law typically is broken into 2 subcategories. Do you know what they are? I put you on the spot, haven't I? They are commonly referred to as moral philosophy and natural philosophy. Natural philosophy you might refer to as science. So a philosopher who studies moral or natural philosophy is sometimes referred to as a scientist. These are men we hold in very high regard. I think you'll agree with me, sir. Men such as Sir Isaac Newton, men such as Johannes Kepler, men such as Copernicus, etc., et plurim, etc., many others. But indeed, the other subset of natural law being moral philosophy, the source of our morality. Sometimes, my friends and my neighbors, people make the mistake of thinking that morality comes by way of religion. It does not, and it cannot. Religion is the duty to which we owe our Creator. It is not our moral guideline. Our moral guideline is set forward by His hand in His work. For example, we know of a philosopher, don't we, by the name of John Locke. And if we don't know him, you certainly know his words, because Mr. Jefferson borrowed from them heavily when he said that in nature, man is, well, that's not what he said, is he? We are all created. Excuse me. There are 4 documents in my head, and I'm crossing all of them right now. Mr. Jefferson's work says that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Locke would say life, liberty, and the pursuit and acquisition of property, but I think it means the same thing. Wouldn't you agree? My point to you is that John Locke also says that in nature, man is born free. The reason I was getting cross is because this is heavily borrowed in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, which was drafted right over here in this building just last year, that states that in nature man is born equally free and independent. Either way, this is an observation of the natural law. And as it is an observation of the natural law, and in the natural law being crafted by his perfect and unyielding hand, we must conclude that it is the will of God that man should be born free. However, madam, you made a mistake sitting right in front of me, didn't you? No, you didn't. And I'll tell you why. It's because I know that you know these words to what I reference. And indeed, I know that you have also read Montesquieu. Montesquieu, whose seminal work, The Spirit of the Laws, has been such a heady influence on us in these recent days, that all of you, I would wager, know and agree with his sentiments. For example, his sentiments that states man will often shirk the law, even the law that he himself has writ, for his own convenience. I think we see that very regularly here in Virginia. As a matter of fact, I think all we need do is look around the city of Williamsburg to see that law, that natural law aforementioned moments ago. In nature,